right, welcome everybody. This is our very own Armorblox podcast called Bloxcast, and we talk about all things related to security over here. And we've got some phenomenal guests today, and I'm super excited to welcome them. We've got Phil Montgomery from Microsoft, Brian Wilson from SAS, and Jessica Grew from SAS as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself, Phil, and then we'll go to Brian and Jessica right after. So over to you.
Thanks, DJ. And I'm equally excited to be here, and I really appreciate the invite. So I'm Phil Montgomery, and I'm the general manager of the Microsoft Security Go-to-Market. So my responsibilities are all of the specific security solutions. I've been in cybersecurity for about 25 years, and prior to Microsoft, I was at Mandiant for 4 years. So I've been really deep in the breach of many of the most talked about recent events. And a funny fact, I started my career in security, although a different kind. I started out with 7 years in the Australian Army. So I've really been in security my whole life, just a little bit different twists and turns.
That's amazing. In the Army and you've served your country and you're here, you're serving the globe, working on security at one of the largest corporations. And thank you so much, Phil, for joining. Super excited and looking forward to the conversation. Over to you, Brian.
Hi, thanks, DJ. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting Jessica and myself to participate with you today. I am a 16-year veteran of SAS. I am their Chief Information Security Officer. I started there as an individual contributor, building up the team, and now I run the team. So we have a global security operations center that's responsible for not only our on-prem hosted customers, but we're responsible for the software and the delivery of that as well. So thanks for having me.
That's amazing. And again, thank you for being here, Brian. We're big fans of y'all, and again, starting something from scratch and building an organization is not easy. So kudos to you. Over to you, Jessica. Would love to have you introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, DJ. I'm really excited to be here as well. I'm currently the team lead of our security operations team over at SAS. I work closely with all of our global partners as well as everyone here in, headquarters. So I've just been, working with both the Microsoft products and Armorblox, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm excited to talk about it today.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. This is going to be a fun session. But before we get into the fun part of it, one of my first topics, that's top of mind for a lot of us is what's been going on the macro scale, right? There's been when you look at the current state of affairs, there's been a lot of things that's on top of mind for us security professionals. With the war that's going on, between Russia and Ukraine, I'd love to get your take on what some of the top of mind issues. That's sort of playing out both on the offensive and the defensive side for organizations across the globe when it comes to cybersecurity, because there's a war being fought on the cyber front as well, and would love to get your takes on it. So Phil, what is it that you're seeing, and would love to get Brian's take right after.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. It's certainly extremely topical, and as we're recording this, I know that President Biden has been actively talking about the cyber threat. And the biggest thing I would tell everybody is that there is a sense of urgency that maybe has not been there before. So, if people have been dawdling and have been putting on the back burner some of these implementations, please don't. Please, it's time to make sure that you're completely up to date, because there is this sense of urgency. We have not seen the full cyber arsenal unleashed on us yet. So let's make sure that we're prepared, that we're ready for it, and let's look at everything. Let's look at our organization from top to bottom, and plus do things like red teaming, blue teaming, purple teaming, to really dive in to see what the threats are. I think that would be my main point. The second thing would be that there is no specific malware threat or zero day we're defending against. It's everything that's out there already. So, that's everything that we've got today, the protection we have, that's what we need to focus on.
I couldn't agree more with you, Phil. The Russia-Ukraine situation is top of mind for us right now. This is, as Phil said, this is something that we've never seen before. We've never had to deal with it before. So we've continued to reinforce diligence to our employees, making sure they understand the different types of attacks that we're seeing. It's one of the reasons that we have Armorblox. So everybody says practice defense in depth and practice in layers.
Yeah.
We have Microsoft doing the email. We have Armorblox supplementing that. And then on the endpoint side, you also have several layers. You have to build things with anticipation that someone's going to get in, and you have to make sure you build those services out so that you can track what actually happened.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to what you just said, Brian. I mean, that's just so super important to have the defense in depth. And I think as well, for many of our listeners, make sure you've got the basics covered. Two-factor authentication on everything. Zero trust. These are things that have been around for a long time. And I like what you said, Brian, about email. The fact is that most attacks still originate from email.
Yep. Yep.
So, and I liked how you said user education is part of it as well.
It is. Yeah.
I'm getting phished all the time, and I'm getting phished through cell phone calls, through email, through text messaging. Like people are trying to spearfish me. So yeah, being vigilant is really important.
Well, and to add on to the MFA piece, the Lapsus group has recently gotten a lot of attention specifically around even potential gaps in MFA. So the end users are still the weakest link. If a user gets bombarded with challenges or MFA prompts to accept, and they happen to think that that's their, that was their authentication that their machine might have been doing, or if somebody calls the help desk and pretends to be them and tries to register a token, you still got the social aspect, but it's even more top of mind for everybody today. Just this week, we were leveraging Azure MFA and deployed the number matching technology for that for all of our employees, just because clicking accept is no longer acceptable.
Maybe I can close off on a personal incident. So yesterday I got a text message from somebody that I worked with 10 years ago. He's a vice president at another security company. And he said, "I'm sorry, I missed your call, Phil." And I looked at my phone, and so I immediately went to LinkedIn and I messaged him on LinkedIn out of band, and I said, "Did you get a call from me?" And he said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "It was not me. Someone was spoofing my phone number."
Check that out. Now it's going way beyond expected channels of communication. As we think about imagining and reimagining security operations, Brian, if you could give us a little bit of an overview of what's going on inside of SAS and how you've built that organization, and sort of give us an introduction. That'll be super helpful for us to dig a little bit deeper into defense in depth. So over to you.
Glad to do it. First off, a little bit of background on SAS. So we are the analytics behind some of the largest companies in the world, from healthcare to financial. So we've been helping customers make intelligent business decisions for like 46 years. So we're a fairly old company. So we've got lots of stuff that we are working on improving. No company is perfect, but we are definitely moving in the right direction. We deliver our software both on-prem, but we're also now shifting towards the cloud model. And in 2020, we actually had a partnership with Microsoft in their Azure environment to bring our software to those to our customers in Azure. And as part of that partnership, we were able to upgrade our licenses from E3s to E5s, which for us was a big deal. We gained all kinds of additional security controls that we didn't have before. So before we even leveraged the Office 365 cloud, we were doing Exchange Online protection and front-ending like our on-prem Exchange environments. So we have experience in running the Microsoft technology. We knew that their anti-spam capabilities, anti-phishing, anti-malware, we knew all of those worked. But the E5 license really enabled us to go to the next level. So we could get the safe links capabilities, we could get the sandboxing of attachments. And since we are a Microsoft shop, it's going to cover us for like OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, and all of the Microsoft products.
Let me turn that into a question, right? So,
Okay.
As you talk about, your investments in Microsoft, as you think about, your strategy itself, is your approach to say, hey, here's one solution that needs to do all of it, or do you actually, think about it in a more layered approach as you think about, sort of expecting one solution to stop all bad actors is going to be pretty gnarly, if you ask me. Right.
Yeah, I think we all know that no technology is going to stop all phishing threats. So the importance of end user education is definitely part of that piece. Making sure that you have additional technologies that can help detect those new types of attacks, I think is the big thing. We all know that our employees are going to click the links. So anything we can do to sort of shut off that link or shut off that message from getting delivered is our goal. We know stuff's going to go through. Again, that's why we do defense in depth. We're always looking to complement the security technologies that we have in order to make them better. We don't just buy the next shiny object because we have budget to do that. We make sure that it makes sense and that it's going to integrate. And that's really why we selected Armorblox, is because it integrated so well with our existing Microsoft technology.
That's awesome. One of the key signals that we at Armorblox, we pride ourselves in sort of innovating, was being able to recognize that, language was, fast becoming a very important signal for security companies to sort of recognize and sort of build on top of, and be able to provide insights to security teams to be able to leverage that as an important input signal in recognizing socially engineered attacks. Tying it back to the original conversation that we were having, I think the interesting nature of the attacks that we're starting to see right now, in the attack that you mentioned, the anecdotal attack that you saw for yourself, people are leveraging, humans and sort of how they engage to be able to, connect with them. It's no longer the Nigerian print scam, which is too obvious, or hey, here's a bad link, a very obvious phishing link anymore. And so one of the ways we see ourselves complementing, the Microsoft technology is by bringing that signal, front and center to the conversation. So, Brian, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and we'll go to Jessica right after as well, to sort of, get your thoughts on what you think about this particular signal, and how has it been useful, in your day to day.
Yeah, as Phil was saying, they are doing all of this work on the back end with the signals and all the threat intel that they're doing. So it's nice that we know that they're doing their part, but we can extend that if we want to. And so that first check, when the message comes in, we know that it's being processed appropriately by Microsoft. But if we want to take that to the next level, if we want to dig in deeper into the messages, natural language understanding is really the next best thing we could do. It helps us contextualize the messages, and it helps us better see what types of issues that are going to be cropping up with our employees. On the back end, Armorblox is looking at things like the SPF records, the domain reputation, how long has this domain been around, and they're essentially helping us score those types of things along with the natural language complementation. And based on those qualities, we get a score. And it is pulling those threats out of the mailbox and helping us really determine what needs to be delivered and what doesn't.
No, that makes a lot of sense. No, and I think, and I'll, you mentioned the end users, and I'd love to segue to sort of the end user education and enablement part of it, right? I think one of the key aspects, of how you think about your strategy is you look at the end-to-end strategy, across the board. It's really interesting to sort of, to hear in the process how you involve your employees, your team members. They are in some ways part of your broader security team. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Jessica. I know that you own that part of it. How do you do what you do, and what have you seen as being the most effective approach in engaging the end users inside the organization?
Yeah, so I really think the feedback loop we get through Armorblox is just so key to this. Anytime we go through and look at what users have reported, we have the ability to tell them directly, was this something malicious and they should be wary of it in the future if they see something similar again, or we can let them know this was a safe email and they can interact with it. We even have users that pretty much will report anything kind of questionable each time to us just to make sure before they interact with it that it's okay. So I always tell them, whenever I interact with any user, that's completely fine. We'd be happy to look at anything. And anytime someone, does like have something questionable and they're not really sure, it's kind of an opportunity to just talk to them and explain why this is bad. So you can point out different things and have Armorblox's message come back and let them know. And it just all really comes in handy and ties together everything for them. I think, too, a big thing that the users get out of it is that they feel like they're helping out. They feel like their work is appreciated. They're more likely to keep an eye out on everything, more likely to report things, and then also talk to their coworkers and let them know, too. I've heard people asking around, hey, is this phishing email something that you got too? Is it something that we should be looking out for or reporting? And everyone just kind of keeps an eye out for each other. So it's really helpful. And another thing, too, I would say is really important is any kind of warning banners that are in the emails. With Armorblox, we can enable some of the warning banners that they'll have on their emails. So if there's something that Armorblox detects, we can have that be right at the top for the user. So when they see that email, before it even is something they interact with, they can already see, hey, this might be something to watch out for. This might be suspicious. So there's always that level of, extra eyes there. It's really great.
There's been a sort of a paradigm shift in terms of how APIs have become so relevant, right? Like, when you think about a modern email security architecture, it's very different from what it used to be, right? And, would love to understand, how you've seen that evolution, Brian, and get your thoughts on it.
Sure. Well, as a cloud service provider ourselves, we feel like availability is the very first thing that our customers expect out of us. And when we started with on-prem Exchange, we were leveraging Microsoft to provide those MX services for us for the Exchange Online back in the day. We knew that Microsoft was a best-of-breed solution. We knew their uptime and their availability. We were used to that, and we didn't want to look at another inline provider that's going to add another hop, add additional latency, potentially impact availability. We didn't want to do that. So we specifically were looking at Armorblox because it did not do that. We had our doubts that the API based, like sort of the post delivery protection, could actually keep up with how quickly emails come in. And we've got people who are sitting there, and the minute an email comes in, they open it up. But it's been very effective. There have been many situations where I have not expected it to have picked up emails as fast as it did, and it did it.
When we talk about the way Microsoft integrates into partners, there's a key component. There's another way by which we have found resonance in the market as Armorblox ourselves in working and augmenting the capabilities inside of Microsoft, is being able to tie the output of what we detect into a SIM and into Sentinel as a SIM, right? And it's been really interesting to see that trajectory in terms of what's people shifting from like an on-prem SIM approach to an entirely cloud-based SIM approach. So, Jess, I'm curious if you, in terms of how SAS thinks about Sentinel, and would love to sort of situate that context and sort of how you're using Armorblox as well. So, any thoughts there in terms of your use of Sentinel and integrating data feeds into it?
Sure. Yeah, so we do use Microsoft Sentinel as our cloud-based SIM, and we do leverage the Armorblox integration features that we have to bring everything into Sentinel. So with that, we're able to see the threats and indicators that we have, and our goal is really just to correlate that with any of our other sources we have in there. And what's nice about it is we can continue to use some of the querying languages that we're already used to within Sentinel and using every day, but just extend that to everything that we're getting through the Armorblox integration as well. So not only is it convenient for our team since it's a language we're already familiar with, but it just so easily ties into everything else. One of the things we plan to do is really extend that and grow that so we can not only just tie the IOCs into everything else, but we can go automate some of our responses as well. So when we do receive reports from a user of a phishing email or something was detected that was confirmed to be malicious, we can already have that automated to go out, add the threats in, block whatever we need, see if there were any users that actually interacted with it or clicked on it in any way, and see if they were able to get there or not. So it just is a huge time saver for us. And, that integration just really helps, put all the pieces of the puzzle together and makes it something complete.
That's awesome. We're close, to time here. So, just in terms of wrapping up, one of my obvious plugs, and I'd love to sort of, bring this topic up because a lot of times it's important for vendors, to work with, organizations like yours, Brian and Jessica. It's really important to build the right type of relationship, back and forth in terms of how you like to see your vendors and how you like to partner with them. I'm curious to hear, how the relationship with Armorblox has been for y'all, and in particular, if there are things that stand out, would love to hear that, and go from there. So over to you, Brian.
Sure. I would say the willingness to take customer feedback and take it seriously and push those things that we are recommending and that we're suggesting into the development pipeline. So there were a number of things early on that we made recommendations for, and they quickly got adopted. I'll give Preet a plug since she is our customer representative. She makes sure that those things get into the development lifecycle, and she doesn't forget to follow back up with us to make sure we know it's enabled and we know how to leverage it and use it. I would say the other piece is the rapid innovation. So you're not only taking suggestions from your customers, but you are looking at additional ways to contextualize the information to make it meaningful to an analyst. I think one of the most meaningful things that we've seen is for the submission inbox where people submit fishes, it now provides them with context about why something was bad or why something was not really a phishing email. So it's you are ever evolving with the technology, and I think it's great to see how quickly you're moving. And I think it complements Microsoft because Microsoft is changing their technologies every day, and that's a good thing. Trying to keep all of our documentation in order, that's a different story. But the technology and the security capabilities of it is moving in the right direction. And so I see Armorblox keeping up with that pace, which I think is really good.
That's awesome. No, thank you so much for that, Phil. Jess, any thoughts on that?
There was one thing you mentioned, Brian, about how the technology is just always changing, and the phishing campaigns out there, they're always changing too. And I would have to say that, to agree right there with you with the threat submissions from our users, one of the key things I like out of Armorblox is the ability that it has to kind of go and find all the emails that match a single campaign, regardless of how much they change. So every time we'll get an email, it might not always be the same sender in that phishing campaign. It might not always be the same link in there. And the way that Armorblox can go out and find everything related to that just makes it so much easier for our team. And it's just amazing how, there's so many different pieces of how that email changes, but yet it's still able to find them all. So for us, that's probably one of the things we like the most.
We were talking about how Microsoft is sort of the largest security company on the planet right now, and how we're starting to, I think you're seeing a huge amount of organizations starting to rely on Microsoft as the very fundamental backbone, for the security architecture. Would love to have you wrap that thought up, and in terms of how the interactions with partners and vendors sort of all come together to making it an incredibly effective organization to work with. So first, thank you for that context, but would love for you to to wrap it up.
Thanks. And before I answer the question, Brian, so you said that you run on Azure, so we're technology partners as well as.
Correct.
Okay, good. I just want to answer the right way.
Yep.
So this is a great place to end, DJ, and I'm going to end where I started. We need to keep the world secure. And every day I wake up, and my colleagues at Microsoft, we wake up securing not just our customers, but securing the rest of the world. And we know that we can't do it ourselves. So we have to work with partners. We have to work with partners like Armorblox. That's why we have the MISA program, and we work with many partners. And we work to secure our customers like SAS, who are also a partner who have built their technology on Microsoft platforms. So we're all in this together to help secure the world. And I really love seeing this partnership, all of us working together. And I think that's the answer to security, is all of us working together.
I love it. All of us working together. That's the key answer. Phil, thank you so much today for joining us, and Brian and Jessica. It was absolutely fantastic to talk to you both as well. Again, this was incredible, and brings us to the end of this session. This was incredibly fun for me. I hope it was fun for you all, and fun for all of the listeners. Thank you again for tuning in.
Thank you all. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Jessica. And thanks, DJ.
Nice to meet you.